Hi there, this is Steve Spurrier. You can join University of Florida Hall of Famer Shane Matthews and also the two-time SEC Player of the Year every weekday as he brings you all you need to know about the Florida Gators, including news, analysis, opinions, and some of the biggest names in sports. You can find him on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Or you can watch him live at 8 a.m. on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter.
Good morning and welcome to a Friday edition of PodUp with Matthews in the morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Last day of March, I believe. Tomorrow's April Fool's Day. Seth Harp will take over the second portion of today's program. We are live today. Waiting on JC. I don't know where he is. He may be sleeping for all we know. Yesterday, they had a pro day at the University of Florida. Sounds like things went well. I'm sure Seth has more information on that than I do. I was not there. We all knew Anthony would do very well. I'm not so sure about all the times from the other guys, but all he did was throw. He didn't lift or run or do any of that stuff. But congratulations to them. Hopefully, we'll see who picks him. I still think he'll be about the fourth or fifth QB taken, but we'll see. If you missed it last night in the NIT, North Texas beats UAB. This weekend, the Gators in baseball host Auburn Tigers. Softball goes to South Carolina. MLB, Major League Baseball, had opening day yesterday where everybody played. Normally, that's not the case, but all teams played yesterday. I actually attended the Texas Rangers game in their new ball. Well, it's not new, but it's a weird ballpark. Very weird. Started the game with the roof open. Started drizzling, so they closed the roof. Just very, very weird. Dan says here on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mellon Gymnastics starts tonight as well. Yes, so all they need to do is just advance and get out of this regional. I did see a thing on Twitter yesterday that was interesting, that the Gators have the most players on opening day rosters, 10 players on Major League Baseball opening day rosters. That doesn't seem like a whole lot, but you got to remember in baseball, so many kids go right out of high school into the minors, work their way up, so they don't really go to college. And then you got so many guys from the Dominican Republic and things of that nature. So that's where we are. We got golf was rained out yesterday. They'll get the first round in later today. Women's NCAA championship, which, as I spoke the other day on the program, I just happened to have it on the other night. That girl from Iowa, Caitlin Clark, is just unbelievable. She's going to face the South Carolina girls, which is the number one team in America. So that should be a heck of a game. And that's being held, I believe, right here in Dallas, Texas. LSU versus Virginia Tech is the first matchup. So that's tonight. And then their national championship game is Sunday. The Final Four kicks off tomorrow. Be interesting to see what happens. A lot of people are writing off FAU. I think they have a very good chance of winning, quite honestly. I'm going to pull for FAU to win the national title. I think that would be pretty cool. So your first game on Saturday is San Diego State against FAU, and then the nightcap, the Connecticut Huskies and the Miami Hurricanes. So should be very, very interesting. So I don't know if any of our people were able to attend Pro Day. I don't know how that works. I covered it last year with the SEC Network with Doring. I don't know if the general public gets to go to that or just family and friends and NFL coaches. But yeah, Anthony sounds like he did very well. He hit the top of the roof. I know people made a big deal about that. His backflip, all that kind of stuff. But we know he could throw the football. We know he can run. We can do all that. So we'll see what team decides to take Anthony Richardson in the first round. I'd like to know who y'all think or who y'all wish would take him. So it'll be interesting to see. The whole Lamar Jackson deal is interesting as well. Who knows where he's going to end up? Hell, he may sit out. But that's where we are right now. So doesn't look like we'll have JC today. He must be sleeping in. Let's get to the Titan MR text line. This is an old text that I didn't read. So we got some other text coming on. Let me delete that one. All right. So we're here to take your Facebook Live questions, comments. Seth will have a guest on in the second portion of today's program. Nat says he doesn't have a clue what happened yesterday. They just throwing on air, guys in shorts, throwing the football around, running. I know we did have one of our track stars I don't know if he was trying out. He just went through. He ran the 40, he did the vertical. I did see where a Tennessee kid, I can't remember which one, ran like a below a 4.0 in the 40. Has that ever happened? Was that legit? I don't know if it was or not. So nobody on here obviously saw that either, so they're not commenting on it. All right, we do have a text on the Titan MR text line from Jonathan. Jonathan says, Shane, have you ever heard of anyone having as good a day as Anthony Richardson did yesterday in a workout? Well, I wasn't there, so I mean, look, throwing in shorts on air does nothing for me. We all know, I mean, we all know he has a strong arm. We all know he can run the football. We all know he's a strong, athletic guy. But I wouldn't read too much into throwing on air. I mean, at 52, I could go out there and throw on air right now. I wouldn't throw it real far, but I could be extremely, extremely accurate. And so we'll see. We'll see. I don't know how the rest of our guys did. Like you said, I sent Doring a text, but he's always traveling and stuff just to see what his thoughts were from it. Another text here on the Titan MR text line from Sharon. Sharon says, Shane, what are you hearing from spring football? I know they had a scrimmage. What can you tell us? Well, Sharon, I apologize, but I wasn't there, so I can't really tell you a whole lot. Coach Spurrier had a comment the other day that he thought Max Brown looked pretty good at the quarterback position. Again, it's hard to tell because you don't know who's playing against who you have on your team or in the scrimmage. So it's hard to tell. And I don't know if you'll tell. I still personally think Graham Mertz will be your quarterback next year. We got a couple Facebook Live questions here. Cliff says, do you think with the injury to Zipper that we'll try to get a tight end from the portal? That is possible. I don't know what our depth situation looks like right there. I know we have the Bellingham kid out of California. I know they're very high on him. I think his only playing time he got last year was in the bowl game. But I know they like him a lot. Very athletic guy. And Dante Zanders, I believe, is still there. So we'll see. We'll see. Joseph said US was 107th in the country in wide receiver drops. I don't know what that means, Joseph. And I don't know who counts drops because sometimes people count drops and they really weren't drops. The old cliche, if your hands touch it, you should catch it. I totally disagree with that. It's a quarterback's responsibility. And then on the other side of that, sometimes a quarterback makes a bad throw and the receiver catches that bad throw. So I don't know how they track drops. And then again, you got to know how to throw the football for guys to catch it. A lot of that plays into it as well. Dan thinks that Anthony will be going to Seattle at number 5 or Vegas at 7, but he may be gone by then. Yeah, we'll see. Ted asks, is Lamar Jackson worth the upper tier money? I think if the Ravens trade Lamar to the Colts, then the Ravens should take Anthony. Lamar Jackson is an interesting QB because he's not your typical NFL guy. He's a good thrower. He's not a great thrower of the football. He's won a lot of games. He's won the MVP before, but he doesn't win playoff games. And that's the problem. As y'all have heard me say on this show multiple times, you have got to throw the football in that league and throw it accurately. I mean, he's worth the money. Yeah, some of these other guys are making a ton of money. Lamar Jackson deserves it for sure. So whether he's a Raven next year, who knows? But Anthony would be a good fit there too. He'd be a good fit in Baltimore. Hey, Chris Doring Mortgage, they do mortgage lending right, helping home buyers throughout Gainesville and North Central Florida. Call Chris Doring Mortgage today at 352-244-0840. We're waiting on JC. I guess he's going to skip today, but Seth Harp will take over the second portion of today's program. JC says now he is calling in. So we will see, folks. I'm sure he has plenty of stuff to chime in. But yesterday, Major League Baseball is pretty cool. I know people, purists, do not like the pitch clock, but let me tell you something. Boy, it makes a game go by fast, especially in person. I really liked it. Dan says, how's your XFL future going? Any good stories? Oh, Dan, I could write a book, bro. The league has been nothing but first class. Awesome. Everything we do is first class. But other than that, it's been rough. I could write a really good book. Let's see. JC says he can hear me. He can hear me. Are you there, JC?
I'm here, but I'm here, QB. I'm here.
All right. Well, all your loyal listeners were waiting on you.
Well, QB, I mean, it's dark in these hotels, and I'm on Central Time, and so
well, as I am too. I'm on Central Time as well.
Well, you've been on Central Time for 3 months. This is an adjustment, and I'll tell you right now. I've told everybody in this hotel, and I've told everybody where I'm at, QB, that I have inside. I'm an insider, an XFL insider, and I've told everybody. I've told everybody that the Arlington Renegades are a fraud. They're an absolute fraud, and I've had just about the entire golf roster at the Dancy Rabbit bet against the Arlington Renegades this weekend. So
well, the problem
right
is
now,
now, JC, what you don't know, since you're not an XFL a true insider, they traded for a quarterback the other day.
yeah, I saw that, and I saw that Slotkin or whoever it was that beat y'all was cut. I got it, but the thing is that, and I did see that, and I saw that, and the line adjusted for it. So I've told everybody that he can't learn the playbook in 2 days. Bet against the Arlington Renegades.
Well, who are they playing, JC?
Oh, they are playing I think it's the Seattle Sea Dragons.
Oh, Seattle to me is the second best team in the league.
Yeah, and I've also said that the DC Defenders are they might as well be the 75 Steelers, or 78 Steelers. But at any rate, I've got everybody directing one way.
You got to remember too, JC. About 3 weeks ago, you thought the Houston Roughnecks were the greatest team in the world. So things with JC don't change. It's whoever wins that week. Okay, we got that. JC, did you watch any? Did you watch any Major League Baseball yesterday?
Well, I did, and I saw that my Yankees just absolutely wiped the floor with the Giants like they should and like they always do. This goes back to the Brooklyn days, or actually, those are the Brooklyn Dodgers. This is the New York Giants that they beat, and they smoked them. Garrett Cole is 3-hitter, 6 innings. Yeah, sure, I saw that. Aaron Judge first at bat. Goodbye, see ya. That's really opening day to me. Is kind of like. It's kind of like the 4th of July. It's a fun holiday type thing. And then when it's over, you don't even remember what you did hardly. And because it's not any different than a weekend at the beach or wherever. So anyway, I saw opening day. It's kind of great. But QB, this season is so long. I mean, here it is March 31st or whatever. And we're going to be talking about baseball until October.
Yeah. So I love the pitch clock. I love it. Absolutely love it.
Yeah, well, that is absolutely right. Yeah, I mean they are making an improvement on the experience. I think for all of us who just want to watch it on TV, forget about the people that go. The people that go don't care because they either leave in the 6th inning or 7th inning, or they just stay the whole time and waste 4 hours of their life. But for us who want to watch it on TV, it is a massive improvement. Yeah, I agree.
So, JC, I went to the Rangers opener yesterday. It was a last-minute deal. That is the weirdest ballpark I've ever been in. The roof was open and they closed it, and it felt like I was in a big convention center. But how many people you think lost money because the pitching matchup in this game was DeGrom versus Aaron Nola. Okay, the final score was 11-9, I think. I saw like 5 home runs, like 5 triples, 3 doubles. It was crazy. The ball flies out of there.
But you loved it, though. I mean, you loved it because you're comfortable. You loved it because, you know, if you sat in the right place, they bring you food and drinks. And you loved it because,
well, let me tell you something.
Obviously,
I don't know how people can afford to go to those games as much as stuff costs.
Yeah, you're right. $13
It's
beers.
ridiculous.
I mean, well, and think about this. They do this 80. I don't know, 80.
Well, let's be honest. Let's be
80.
honest. There's only a handful of ballparks that are somewhat full during the week. Maybe during the week when it's not opening day, they drop their prices. I don't know, but it was crazy.
No, you're right.
But
it's insane.
Let me get to this Facebook Live. I want you to answer this, JC, and then I will answer it. It's directed towards me, but I want to get your opinion. Reggie says on Facebook Live, brought to you by Melton Law. He goes, I don't understand your stance on the LIV golf when you are supporting the XFL, which is a competitor league against the NFL. Okay, I'll let you go first.
It's not. Well, first of all, A, it's not a competitive league. B,
Correct.
It's a developmental league. It's a developmental league, okay?
Correct.
And C, you don't have some of the world's you don't have a player that won the Super Bowl playing in the XFL. You do have.
We do on our team.
Oh, you do?
We have a tight end, 1-1 with the Broncos.
All right, but the point is that in the XFL, in the LIV, you've got Cam Smith. Let's just use him for an example. This guy won the British Open. Okay, he won the TPC. Now, the fact is that he went for money. Okay, nobody, and I mean nobody, is going to the XFL for the money.
No.
So it's a ridiculous comparison. He's wrong. He doesn't get. So anyway, I mean it's a simple analogy. It's very simple to discuss.
It's not even. It's apples and oranges. I mean, it's not even the same. No comparison.
Right.
No comparison. So hopefully we answered his question.
Well, I hope we did. I mean, he may think that we're full of it, but I think the bottom line is that you can't make those. That's not. It's a developmental league. It's not a competitor at all. At all. And everybody knows that. I mean, come on, QB. The Washington Redskins are about to be, or Washington, whatever they are, the TV team, the video team, they're about to be sold for $6 billion. Who in the hell is going to buy an XFL team for $6 billion?
The Rock apparently bought the league. I don't know what he paid for it.
He didn't pay $6 billion. I guarantee you, it did not cost him $6 billion.
I agree. Dan says he likes the new Rangers ballpark. The old one, you die when it's 100. I agree with that. I like how the old ballpark, it's still not old. It's still like brand new. That's where the Renegades play. And I've been in there multiple times. I like it. It's a cool baseball venue. But yeah, the roof makes a huge difference. There's no doubt about that. JC.
And it will in July. Yeah.
Let's hang on. We got a text on the Titan More text line. Chris from Cottondale says JC needs to get himself together. The listeners are waiting. You're definitely Tom Brady, but he needed Edelman, and I guess that's JC. That's great.
I like this Chris. I tell you what, this guy Chris from Cottondale, he's a very creative listener. I really enjoy him. I think he's got a lot to add. I just decided that, you know, I've got to make an adjustment to Central Time. That's all it is.
Yeah, well, you only have to do it today. You don't have to worry about it on Monday. You just got a few days in Central Time. All right, JC, let's get to the Peachland Dental. Gator Nation's #1 choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte surrounding areas. Visit them at peachlanddental.com. All right, first game tomorrow, April Fool's Day. The Aztecs host the Owls of Florida Atlantic for a trip to play for the national title. Who you got?
Yeah. Oh, well, I'm rooting for FAU, but my money's on San Diego State. I think defensively, San Diego State is the kind of team that just makes the game so ugly sometimes. And athletically, I just don't see a matchup here. I think San Diego State, these are grown-ass men, as they say. So I'm going to take San Diego State. I'm going to go ahead and lay the 2. And then at night, it's hard to bet against Connecticut, but I've been on Miami for 2 weeks. So, yeah. I'll take the 5.5 and go with the Canes.
Well, unfortunately, it should be Creighton versus Florida Atlantic, but it's not. I spoke with someone the other day that really knows basketball, and what you stated is correct. But they said that you do not realize how big and athletic that the Owls are. because
True.
when I watch them on TV, I don't realize that either. And maybe it's because they're playing FAU, but he says they are a big, long, athletic team.
Yes.
So I'm going to go with the Owls in the upset.
Yeah, and it's okay. I mean, I get it. I mean, they got a 7-footer who can run. They've got shooters. And listen, everybody's been betting against the FAU at their own peril. There's no question about it. But to me, when I saw what San Diego State did to Alabama defensively, I thought to myself, well, if they can do this against these guys, well, I mean, why can't they do it against everybody they play? So I agree with you. FAU is no joke. They are seriously good, but I'm going with the older, more, experienced team. So I'll take San Diego State.
Right. And in Connecticut, Miami's had a great run, and it's all guard play. But boy, Connecticut's got so much size down low, and they have great shooters around the perimeter.
Right.
I think Connecticut. I think it's going to be Connecticut and FAU. So that's my picks. You got Miami, and San Diego State. So,
but remember, QB, I'm betting now. Remember this. I'm picking this based off the point spread. If Connecticut wins by 4, sure, yeah. I mean, okay, they'll go, but I win the bet. So I mean, I'm going to take the points. So I'm just going with points.
Yeah. JC, we didn't get to pick the Valero Texas Open. It was suspended yesterday due to weather. But did you watch any of it?
That's good. And I love how you laughed when you asked that question. No, QB, I missed it. And, this is, again, a chance for – it's kind of like the one they had in the Dominican Republic. It's just a chance for guys to get a 2-year exemption. So,
is it Masters Week next week or the following week?
Yes. Well, no. I mean, April 8th and 9th. What's the date? Today is the 31st. Yeah, so next week.
Oh, gosh. So Monday starts Masters Week.
Yeah. Wow,
I thought it was the
practice round. No, practice round starts next week, and to me, the practice round is one of the things you want to watch. I mean,
I got to respond to Reggie. He says if you got Super Bowl champions on a team, then it's not a developmental league. Reggie, okay, let me explain to you how it works. The average career of an NFL player is 3.5 years. I would say it's actually getting lesser than that. So just because a guy was a 4th receiver or a 4th tight end on a Super Bowl champion does not it is a developmental league. He's trying to get back to the NFL, but he's also trying to make money for his family. I mean, they're making about $70,000 for 3.5 months of work. Yeah. So it's a developmental league. It has nothing that they put it this way. The NFL is partnered with the XFL, Reggie. So that tells you that there is no competition. Nobody in the world can compete with the NFL. Nobody.
Well, I think Reggie's just fooling around with us. I don't think Reggie's serious because, I mean, you look at these stadiums. QB, you've been to almost all of them. Mm-hmm. You get 10,000 fans in there. I mean, at the most, 15?
Yeah. So, and it's all, I mean, the money's coming from the TV contracts with ABC and ESPN. So,
yes, correct. Yeah. I mean, your distribution package is better than the freaking Live Tour. So, I mean,
no question.
I mean, you've got, but that doesn't mean you're competing with Daddy. I mean, everybody knows the NFL is king. Everybody knows that. So it's not a.
I would say when the XFL season concludes, the end of April or the first week in May after the 2 rounds of playoffs, my guess is 10 to 15 players, maybe 20 throughout the league will get a chance to go to a camp. That's my guess.
Yeah.
So it gives what the XFL is no different than when guys play in the G League in basketball or they're playing overseas to make money. They're doing it for a living. That's what they're doing. So, all right, JC, we got to get out of here because Seth Harp has taken over the program. We appreciate you getting up on Central Time for all your fans out there. We appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, listen, it was a battle. Everybody here, by the way, QB is good. They all ask about you. They all want to know where you're at. I've given them the update. So we're all rooting hard, and we'd love to see the Guardians play hard this weekend against a
like
very
I said,
good.
we're second in the league in offense, and that's what I'm in charge of now. So
there you go. Well, there you go. There you go.
Hey, control what you can control to a degree.
Okay. All right. Well, listen, thanks, QB. I'll see you on Monday, baby.
All right, that's JC. Join us on the Tight Number Hotline. Celebration points where the Gators go to celebrate with premium brands like Nike, International Diamond Center, Dave & Buster's, Palmetto Moon, Escape Apology, Visors Rooftop, and the HBC's Restaurant Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. We'll see you at Celebration Point where the Gators go to celebrate. We're going to turn this thing over to Seth Harp. Enjoy your weekend, folks. We'll see you on Monday. Take care.
We want to take this moment to thank our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our premium sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, the only official injury and accident law attorneys of the Florida Gators. Peaceland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise.
Campus USA Credit Union.
QC Kinetics, live pain-free with QC Kinetics. Dave & Buster's, eat, drink, play, and watch. Our gridiron sponsors are Auto ER, UF Bookstores, Celebration Point Town Center, Chris Doring Mortgage, Silverback Concrete Co., Ruse Ogre State Farm Insurance, Doreen Wibby, Realtor Caldwell Banker MM Parish. Our touchdown sponsors are Adams Ribs, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Okido America, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, Big Mills Cheesesteak, McDonald's of Gainesville, 84 Lumber, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, Aver and Smith, Dowling Signs, Baker's Sporting Goods, Silver Cube Billiards and Sports Bar. If you're interested in promoting your business on the show, call Freddie at 352-284-3733. If you like what we're doing here, make sure to follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Hi, this is Steve Spurrier, former head ball coach of our Florida Gators. Business is booming at our restaurant, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. So we're looking to hire 3 top quality front of the house managers and assistant managers. Restaurant talent acquisition is like building a championship football dynasty, and I'm recruiting great people to join our newest team. Thanks to the overwhelming support of people here in Gainesville, the Gator Nation, and fans of all the teams, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill is one of the busiest restaurants in the state. And with our weekend brunch buffet and our takeout options coming soon, we're looking to add a few new restaurant leaders. Everyone knows a coach sometimes is about as good as all of his talent, his players, and his assistant coaches. And if you have a restaurant management experience and are looking to work in a fast-paced, fun environment, then go to www.spurriers.com and apply today. Thank you, and go Gators.
Sports, second half of the program today, this final day of March. We are here, baby, as March Madness comes to an end. That's going to be the closer of this program as we look at the Final Four and what we expect. Zac Blobner from the J&Z show, WDAE in Tampa, is going to be my partner in crime over the course of the next half hour here. Of course, Zac and myself, courtesy of the Titan MRI hotline. If you have any questions, fire away, baby. We are here for you, courtesy of Facebook Live and Meldon Law, the only official law firm injury partner of the Florida Gators. Zac, I love bringing Zac on because Zac's a Gator grad. Zac works down the road in Tampa, where he hosts his own little radio program there, covering all the major entities with the Tampa Bay sports scene. So we have the Rays opening day that we're going to get to, and they're just right out of Central Casting, continuing to do what they do. A bunch of new faces in there. Some of the household names are gone now, like Kevin Kiermaier, Zanino, former Gator, gone, moved on. So we're going to have Zac about those as well. But I want to start out with Pro Day. Zac, I was there, so it was a little bit different than the people that watched it. In the aspect of when Anthony Richardson threw, the whole place got quiet. It was like I hate to use this because it's not fair. It was almost like a funeral. and not in a bad way, but where everybody was so respectful of what was going on. I've never seen anything like it. That dude's a physical specimen. He's built like a triangle with feet. You know what I mean? Like I've never seen anything like him at that position. He looks like a professional wrestler is what he looks like. And I wrote this down and jokingly, because it is WrestleMania weekend, he's Andre the Giant. He's a physical, not fat Andre the Giant, but Andre the Giant in the 70s. He's a physical freak in a position that we're not used to seeing. We haven't seen anything like him physically from the perspective of the outside looking in. Anthony Richardson's pro day, what did you take away from it, Zach?
Yeah, it's just more of the same, right? A historical combine, then you get to the pro day, and it felt like literally everybody in the NFL world was there. I mean, again, I watched it from afar. I was at opening day yesterday in St. Petersburg for the Rays, but every other TV that wasn't on baseball or having something to do with baseball throughout that whole area that day was on the Gainesville pro day and watching Anthony Richardson. And in between my chats about how many games are the Rays going to win and what's the rotation going to look like, all those different things, everybody wanted to talk about Anthony Richardson and whether or not he was worthy of a first round pick. And the thing that I think people mostly forget about, and this goes back to what he was doing yesterday, like you're going to have the measurables. Again, they're going to look historic. They're going to look freakish athletically, but the draft is so heavily based on potential. There's no such thing as like a surefire hit, right? I mean, every once in a while you get a Trevor Lawrence or an Andrew Luck, who for the most part, people unanimously agree they're going to be studs in the league, but even then you don't know. So if you're thinking of it from that point of view, that it's so heavily based on potential and about what this guy could be versus what he is today, you know, Anthony Richardson is the type of guy you look at, and especially after his pro day, and think, well, he could be the best ever just based on the potential, right? And then you try to mirror that with, okay, well, how long would it take a team to reach and tap into that potential in a way where they're winning games? You know, what's the risk versus the reward? And I think that's the biggest thing with Anthony is, yeah, he looks great, but there's enough film from last year where you know there's inherent risk that you might not get with a CJ Stroud or a Bryce Young, right? So I think that's all like good and well. And I know that there's a lot of people that are like, we watched him not throw good passes in the short game and like be inaccurate. And there were moments where his legs couldn't save him. And look, watching all the Gator games last year, you don't got to convince me. Like he wasn't this perfect quarterback that people might think he is from the drills, both at the combine and at pro day. But that being said, Seth, think about whenever you go, you know, to anything, a car show, the grocery store, there's just stuff that pops out to you. And we're human. We're human, man. We're always going to go after the shiny things, like just inherently. And guess what? The shiny thing in the draft this year is Anthony Richardson. And yesterday was just more proof of it.
You know, it's interesting because you look at who was there yesterday. Mm-hmm. And Pete Carroll was there. Doug Peterson was there. Frank Reich was there. Well, we know Doug Peterson is not drafting Anthony Richardson, right? Doug Peterson is there for Cyrus. You know, Jawan Taylor go, and maybe a Garage too, right? Mm-hmm. Because offensive line, and that's one of those things that the Jaguars, who knows what the future is going to be up front with them, and there's other guys on the docket that he was there for. But Frank Reich, Carolina Panthers, and Pete Carroll, you do not send your NFL coaches to those pro days unless you're at least looking at the quarterback position, all right? Carolina, no. I don't want Anthony Richardson to end up in Carolina. It just scares me to death. I know Frank Reich had, the Eagles and had some success, and the Colts, that was a disaster. But Pete Carroll is the one. Now, I like Baltimore if they move on from Lamar Jackson, because Baltimore's a lot like the Rays, Zach. They're a stable franchise. Stable franchise. They may not win the title every year, but they're stable enough to get that adrenaline shot that can take them to a World Series or to a Super Bowl, right? So when I saw Pete Carroll, I thought, okay, look, Gino's under contract for 2 or 3 years here. If the goal is to bring Anthony in and to move him along, that may be one of the better situations for him in terms of growth, Anthony Richardson. And I sit here and I look at this. It's like, okay, where did the Seahawks pick? They pick what, 6th, 7th?
Yeah, they're right up there in the top 10. They got one of those picks.
They have to jump the Colts to get him. So just is a guy that the Buccaneers, they didn't send anybody, but just from the perspective of fits at the next level. And you talk about potential. I don't want to see him become like Jamarcus Russell, not because he has a different mindset than Jamarcus.
Yeah.
Anthony Richardson starting week one's a bad idea.
No, and that's the crux of it, right? Like, you just don't want to be in that position. And if you're the Carolina Panthers, I don't know how you get around that if you draft him. I do think it's super interesting, actually, like even starting the draft process a couple months ago and looking into these things. I've felt the whole time Seattle was the best spot, and the one of the teams with a more realistic opportunity to go out and get him. You try to mitigate that risk versus that reward. And you think in Seattle, it's the perfect situation when Geno, especially them getting him back under contract. Pete Carroll, what he did with Russell Wilson, not that him and Anthony Richardson are the same, but you've seen him be able to work with a guy that maybe will move around a little bit more in the pocket like Russell did earlier in his career. So I think that that's the perfect fit. I think it's interesting too, because you brought up the Ravens, and the Lamar situation has so many ramifications of this draft, not just in Baltimore, because, and I had to find out the technical side of it, because I was like, well, what if nobody trades for him after the draft? He's 2 first-round picks for the following year in 2025. Is that like how it goes? And honestly, it was hard to get a straight answer from people because I felt like nobody knew. But it seems that based on the information I've gathered, like that is what happens. Like it'd be the 2024 and 2025 pick. And I was like, okay, well, if you're a team drafting in the top 10, why the hell would you trade for him right now? And I think that makes sense with the quarterback class, kind of like you mentioned, because, okay, well, if you're Indy, and let's say you're in love with 1 or 2 of these guys, but they're gone before you get a chance. Well, then you maybe take your chances and try to go after Lamar post-draft. And you can make the same argument. Well, not the same argument, but I think Atlanta's another team, top 10, where like they probably want to get all these awesome draft picks in that are going to be top 10 every round because of where they pick. And then they're like, okay, now we can afford these 2 first rounders because we just got super young and super talented, even more so than we were. And now we can go after a guy. And even if we don't get Lamar in this trade package, we got Desmond Ridder, which is the plan anyways. So I think there's so many quarterback, storylines that surround Lamar. And then again, you mentioned like the Ravens play into that as well. I doubt, even though he was a Pro Bowler, they want to roll with Huntley next season. But even Huntley's a guy kind of like Geno, where if you got to sit Anthony for like a year behind him or even half a season, you can afford to do so. But it's so interesting, Seth, because I just think back to guys like Josh Allen, and that's kind of where I land with Anthony Richardson in terms of this draft process. And Josh wasn't the first or the second quarterback off the board that year, and Anthony won't be most likely the first or the second off the board this year. But I do worry that, like, if a team like the Texans fall in love with them, right, or even Indianapolis or Carolina, like those might not be great spots for him to land in. And it looked like, and this is the tough part, and you were there, so I'm interested to hear your point. The TV product made it seem like Frank Reich was the chummiest with him. Like, we saw Frank Reich buy him more than anybody in Carolina. And then afterwards on social media, you had the Seahawks. They do all their selfie pics and posts. Look, I'm not saying we're ranking selfies, but Anthony Richardson's was the best picture out of the 4 with the quarterback. So those 2 things stuck out to me, again, from the outside looking in.
Yeah, Zac Blobner, the J&Z show, WDAE in Tampa, with us here, PodUp with Matthews in the morning. Of course, Seth Harp on Sports. If you got a question for us, fire away, courtesy of Meldon Law. Facebook Live, Meldon Law, the only official law firm partner of the Florida Gators. And of course, with you here on this Friday, PodUp with Matthews, a service of QC Kinetics. If you have joint pain in your shoulders, hip, or back that won't go away, check out QC Kinetics for long-lasting relief. Not surgery, drugs, or downtime. No downtime here, baby. Schedule your free consultation at QC Kinetics locations in Ocala and now open in Gainesville as well. Dan writing, he said, I liked how they spoke of AR's football IQ and overall personality was outstanding. Quality kid. Yeah, like all indications are that this is a good dude. And again, you never truly know somebody, but other than the speeding incident, and that's one of those things that shouldn't have done. But just, we've seen all sorts of guys get in trouble for a variety of reasons. So I there's certain things that you have to weigh. And look, I enjoy working at the university, helping kids. I enjoy it. Zach, you went here for 4 years, but I could understand in the summer as a 20-year-old going, okay, I'm bored.
Yeah.
I want to screw around a little bit. At 43 now, I'm like, all right, what can I go do? I'm not going to go drag racing, but he wasn't doing that, but you know what I mean? Let's see here. Dan also writing in, do you see a situation where a team trades a bunch of picks like Ditka did a year ago to move up to number 1? The only time you would ever do that would be for an elite generational quarterback like Trevor Lawrence that coming out, or a Patrick Mahomes. But if you're number one, you're not trading that guy. Yeah, so no, that won't happen again.
Well, it already happened too, right? With the Bears and Panthers. We already saw that trade go down. So it's not gonna, the Panthers aren't gonna trade up just to go back. Like that would be, I don't even think a package exists that would make that happen.
The only time, Dan, I think it's an interesting question. The only time that could happen, let's say Caleb Williams goes back to back with a Heisman, and a team like, I don't even know. It would have to be a team that has a surefire quarterback that they're, let's say Justin Herbert breaks his hand in the preseason and can't play all year, and the Chargers go 3-14, and the Chargers end up with the number 1 pick. Then at that point, I could see somebody unloading a bunch of stuff to get up to Caleb Williams where the Chargers currently sit. It'd have to be a situation where you have a franchise quarterback in place and you end up with the worst record, which I don't know how that would even happen, but unrealistic scenarios. Has there ever been a QB unsuccessful in college and successful in the NFL? Joe Flacco, where'd he go? Delaware?
Delaware, baby. Blue Heads.
Super Bowl. Josh Allen. The guy that was brought up, Zach. I mean, what was he at Wyoming? Was he a little bit above 500? Jay Cutler was at Vanderbilt. He was at 500. No, these guys aren't Hall of Famers, but they did have some success in the National Football League. I mean, and then you have a guy like Steve McNair that played at Alcorn State that wasn't, FBS.
Well, you mentioned Mahomes. I mean, did he light it up, right? Like,
my guy, the best example, and you came up with him. So there you go. But no, overall, I want to see Anthony Richardson succeed. But we talked about this too, Zach. What's going to be interesting is if he goes to the NFL and tears it up and is good, then everybody's going to look at this Gator program. And it was funny. Pat McAfee had a great line yesterday. He's like, look at Cyrus. Look at these guys. He's like, these guys got 4 or 5, starters in the NFL. How'd this team have a losing record last year? And then, because Pat McAfee, the thing about Pat McAfee is there's no filter. It's the truth. I like Pat a lot. He understands the entertainment aspect of it. But him sitting there going, how on earth did this Gator football team, how did they lose to Vanderbilt? And it's a great question, Zach.
It's so funny you bring that up, because the one thing I've mentioned pretty much in every conversation I've had about Anthony Richardson, just on the hypothetical that he does ball out and he is really good, is what a bad look that would be for Billy Napier, right? Like, now listen, obviously Billy's still going to get his chance to coach up this team. Like, and he could, before we even find out if Anthony's any good in the NFL, Billy will probably have another 2 years under his belt. So we'll have plenty to look at. But yeah, if he balls out in any capacity in the pros, like, there's no way we don't look back on this team and wonder how Napier didn't get more out of them.
Yeah. So there we go. Zac Blobner, Seth Harp, with you here, PodUp with Matthews in the morning as we look ahead. Oh, by the way, a little plug. We were down there. Steve Russell did pro day from 11 to 1. I about had Steve passing out because Steve interviewed 12 people in the span of 2 hours. Everybody from Trace Armstrong, started with Billy Napier, Trace Armstrong, Tom Pelissero from the NFL Network, Malik Davis, Eric Gardner, and then he interviewed every single person that was working out at the combine or working out at the So Steve had 11 interviews in the span of like 85 minutes, 90 minutes. Every one of those interviews is available, by the way, courtesy of ESPN Gainesville on Twitter, WRUF.com. So every interview that Steve did yesterday from the combine is up. So there's some fascinating stuff in there. By the way, Trace Armstrong, brilliant mind. That guy, I know he's agent and doing things, but that dude, and consider him, he should be in the front office somewhere. Okay. We're going to switch gears here a little bit, as we talk about Anthony Richardson, now to Major League Baseball. It was opening day. I know that you guys, covering the Rays, you were there. I look at these things because I think this is just fascinating that the Rays may be the most stable franchise in Major League Baseball. Didn't say the best, the most stable. I know, Zach, heading into September, the Rays are going to be in the wild card hunt. They may not be winning the division, but they're going to be a playoff team. They're there every single year. I would say that they're like the Pittsburgh Steelers 7 or 8 years ago. I don't know who that would be in the NFL now that's always just there. Now they just need that adrenaline shot to get them over the top. But I wrote down, and I know there's more than this, Kiermaier, gone. Choi, gone. Zunino, gone. I know they traded for Cruz a couple years ago. He wasn't there last year, but he was a one and done type of deal. And then pitchers that have come and gone over the course of the last few years. And now it is become what? It's a Rose Arena, right?
Yeah.
Yachty, when it comes to this organization now, right? Let's face it, invested a ton of money. It was really the first organization to go, you know what? Well, actually, the Braves were this with Freddie Freeman. We've got our star that's got about 3 or 4 years before arbitration. Let's overpay him now, first 3 or 4 years. That way, when he's going to be due $40 million a year, we only have to pay him $27 million a year. So they thought ahead. Then the Braves did it with the entire roster after the Rays did it. The lineup, the structure of this Rays franchise now in 2023, as opposed to the team, Zach, that went to the World Series 3 years ago. How do you see it?
Yeah, I would say the rotation is very different from that World Series team, but equally as powerful this year. And I would say it's the most comparable in terms of talent on the mound to that World Series run. Tyler Glasnow, the main holdover. Shane McClanahan from USF was just kind of getting going as a youngster, and now he's the ace. He's the starter. He pitched yesterday. Brilliant gem of a game from him. You add in Zach Eflin. They traded for him from the Phillies team that just went to the World Series last year. He might not even be their 5th best pitcher, and he was the 3 for Philadelphia. You look at Drew Rasmussen, who almost had a perfect game last year. I think Drew, ironically, not the biggest star on this rotation, is probably going to pitch more innings than any of the other starters. Jeffrey Springs, a guy that just got an extension, pitched really well, kind of following the same path as Drew Rasmussen. They picked up Springs off the scrap heap from Boston a couple seasons ago. Now he's a top 5 guy in a really good rotation, like nothing to just blink at. And they got really good depth too, a few other pitchers that they mix in. Plus every year, arguably the best bullpen in baseball, if not one of them. They return Jason Adam, who is one of their quote unquote closers. They don't actually pick one. He just pitched for Team USA though. You might recognize his name. Pete Fairbanks is the biggest guy they got coming out of the bullpen in terms of stature. And then there's just a litany of other guys they can roll out there. So the arms are going to be damn good. There's no way around it for Tampa Bay. And that's why they're consistently in that postseason conversation and in the playoffs, is because they have that pitching, Seth. The hitting, which is what you more so alluded to, a little bit of a different conversation. Yeah. They don't have that depth, right? So they're really banking on guys staying healthy, including Wander Franco, who is the face of the franchise, who they are building around. Randy Arozarena is another guy that obviously had a great World Baseball Classic for Mexico. He's got the personality, the star power. Him with his agent being Scott Boras, like, we know our time is limited with Randy in Tampa Bay, just realistically speaking. Boras, biggest agent in baseball, doesn't like the Rays, has made it very known just in terms of the money he's trying to get his clients. It is what it is. But Randy is a guy who I think will be springboarded from his time at the World Baseball Classic. And one of the things about Arozarena that I really appreciate that he did differently as spring training started, he talked to the staff about the scouting reports that pitchers use against him, and he got some more info. And I don't know how much that will translate into the season, let alone the start of it, but it obviously helped him in the World Baseball Classic. So there's reason to believe logically that that'll help him to start the year in Tampa Bay this year as well. Randy having an RBI hit yesterday there for him. Wander had a home run at the end of the game for them to win 4-0. So those guys really starting strong. And Brandon Lau's the other one coming back from injury. He's supposed to be their biggest power bat just in terms of home runs. He missed almost all of last season with that injury. So he looks as healthy as ever. He didn't really do well yesterday, but he's a guy the Rays expect to put a lot of balls over the fence there. So if the lineup can stay healthy and the pitching is what it is, even if there are injuries, like Glasnow is already not going to pitch in probably till the end of May. Yeah. Like, there's no reason to believe that they're not going to be one of the best teams in baseball. But that's a big if, right? When you're worrying about guys with an injury, quote unquote, history to stay healthy.
It's interesting that you bring that up about just the rotation and Randy. Well, they still have control of him for 3 more years with arbitration, and but then the value each year that goes by goes down. So
and the Rays always get rid of guys before that. That's their way, man.
Yeah. Yep. So and look, it's one of those things that you're probably looking at 2 prime prospects in return, but and everybody, it's funny because always the knock on the Rays is that, well, they keep getting rid of their good guys. They keep getting rid of their good guys. Yeah, they get 3 or 4 more good guys in return, and that's why this continues to move. That's why you see like the Red Sox crash and the Mets crash and the Tigers really crash, because they hold on to their guys too long. And then before you know it, you got a guy that's hitting 216, that's got 4 home runs, that's making $35 million a year, and you didn't flip him for 2 young guys coming up through the system. It's very Belichick-esque.
I agree. I was thinking Bill Belichick, because he did the same thing, right, in New England all those years with Brady.
Yeah, trading Richard Seymour for a first round pick. I mean, you're just trading guys left and right. It's like, okay, it's what you do.
Well, Chandler Jones, he sent to Arizona in like the prime of his career. We're like, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, that's how we do it. We flip him.
So, it worked. Okay. So there we go on that front. It was a good opening day. Again, shut out the Tigers. I don't know how good the Tigers are going to be this year. But
hey, win's a win.
Where baseball is kind of, it has that feel of okay, well, baseball maybe has kind of figured some things out here. They've got a new, looks like collective bargaining agreement done with minor league baseball, which is great. I'm not saying baseball's back or what it was in the 70s or 80s, but we do know that, the NFL is king for the foreseeable future. The NBA is number 2 now, and it has been. And the NBA is actually more popular with 17 to 25-year-olds than football. So, okay, now it'll be interesting to see where baseball tries to position itself, going forward. Okay, college basketball. I wanted to hit on this before we let you go and we wrap up this Friday edition. I don't think it's going to happen, but Caitlin Clark in Iowa and South Carolina, those are big names and brands in that sport. It's drawing interest. She's drawing interest. The viewership for, what was it? Was it Iowa last weekend? Had more consumption than any NBA regular season game did on ESPN all year. And I know the LeBron breaking the record, a lot of those big games were on TNT, but still the fact that happened shows you, and look, I'm not going to sit here and say women's basketball is bigger than men's. No, not for 1 second. But there is massive interest in this. Zach, what are you more interested in this weekend? Caitlin Clark in Iowa and South Carolina, or FAU in San Diego State?
So I am more interested in the Final Four, but that I think puts me more in the minority than the majority. I watch, and we've talked about this over the years, I probably watch more college hoops, just generally speaking, than your March Madness casual fan. Not that I'm like watching every game all year long, but I consume a good amount even before the calendar flips into the new year, which most people don't, right? So for me, I'm just excited about the Final Four, but how can you not pay attention to what Caitlin Clark's doing? How can you not keep an eye on it and talk about it and just be enthralled by the performances she's putting out there? Like, it's so wild, man. I was at Army Navy last December in Philadelphia, and we were sitting there at a Flyers hockey game against the Capitals, and there was one of the TVs on Iowa women's hoops. And I found more of the people, it was a sports book, were watching that game than the one on the ice in front of us and the other games going on. I've given it wasn't a great sports slate that night, to be fair, but I was just like, what the hell is going on? And my co-host Jay Retcher was beside me, and he's like, Caitlin Clark, man, she's the real deal. Here we are now in March, and she's still that person that's drawing eyes, drawing interest in a way that we really haven't seen. And I think it's a mixture of her being that damn good and entertaining and just seeing the sport grow for the women's side, right? Like, you wonder if it's a fruitless labor that they've been putting forth to try to prop up this product. I think Caitlin Clark is an example of it actually getting some traction, even if it's not at the level or quickness that you would want it or hope it to be, trying to push that sport up. But great example was, Dawn Staley tries to go for another one, and you got Caitlin Clark doing her thing. I mean, I would say your casual hoops fan knows more about what's happening in the women's side than it ever has. So I think that the proof is in the pudding in that regard.
It's funny, Zach, because I'll hear it, and I had people arguing with me all the way. I love this Final Four. Yeah, but you're not going to watch it. Okay, I love all the upsets. Yeah, but you don't watch them. You don't. You like them in the early round because you got 32 other games going on. But you need some of those blue bloods, and to show you that all that doesn't matter. The women's basketball game outdrew the NBA on ESPN for the year when the NBA hasn't been this popular in 20 years. Okay. And there's a reason why. It's because of Caitlin Clark in South Carolina and stardom. Of course, Zac Blobner, the J&Z show, WDAE in Tampa, with us here on PodUp with Matthews in the morning. Service of Comfort Temp. Comfort is our business. Peace of mind is the promise. Beat the summer heat and schedule your air conditioner tune-up today, keeping you chill and the Florida heat far away. Comfort Temp Heating and Air, 352-376-2366. That's 352-376-2366. Okay, before we wrap this up, I know we're up against it here. Men's Final Four. By the way, Iowa, can she beat them? Can she beat South Carolina?
Why not? I mean, she's done everything else we've asked at this point. I mean, it's one of those athletes you don't put restrictions on what they can and can't do.
She's Steph Curry, but with a better shooting percentage. It's true. I don't know. She's Steph Curry with a better shooting percentage. Let that sink in. Okay, who wins? Men's Final Four.
I was like, I'm still picking South Carolina in that one. But yeah, for the men's, I like FAU to get to the title game. I think they're just riding a high right now. I think that they've got the mindset. And, if not this year, probably never, right? And that's probably the approach that they're having is like, it's our year, we're destiny. I like what San Diego State's done a lot, but my gut is just telling me to go FAU. And my gut, this tournament at least, has helped me a lot. Pick some of these games right, more so than not. You got to think that even though Miami's had a hell of a tourney run, that UConn is the best out of the 4 teams left. It's hard for me to pick against UConn in that matchup, unfortunately. But give me UConn, give me FAU, and then great run for the Owls. But and I know it's a little chalk. At some point, the chalk has to hit the board. I'm going UConn the rest of the way.
Yeah, I agree with you. And the thing is, there is I think UConn beats Miami 7 to 10 points.
Yeah.
It may be, but I think that's safe. I think the first game, boy, if it's FAU and UConn, Zach, they're going to be by 25 points. Or your juxtaposition is to get you UConn and San Diego State. The game that would be the most interesting in the finals would be FAU in Miami, because they
agree.
have great backcourts and they can run for the
Well, that's going to tank the ratings, though, right? If you got 2 Florida teams.
Yeah.
No, the state of Florida would be the only people watching that.
It's like the Subway Series in baseball. It's like
100%.
Nobody watched it. So I think, boy, if it's San Diego State and UConn with those front courts, oh my God, it's going to be 55 to 41. And it's going to be like that Butler UConn game that one year when it was like 18 to 12 at halftime. It's like, oh my, Charles Barkley said, man, that's the worst basketball I've seen in 30 years. Charles.
He's going to be saying it again soon. You got a new one coming up.
There you go. Really quick. I got about a minute here. What's going on? J&Z show WDAE in Tampa.
Yeah, we'll be enjoying the Rays opening day win 4-0. The Lightning win as well last night, 5-1 over the Capitals. So anytime you can double dip in the victory pool, you do so. So we're going to do that.